Yeah, it's a difficult time for the football club, for the players, for the manager. I think everyone connected with the football club. I was there against Southampton, and actually they started the game really well. They played with a 4-1-3-2 with McTominay at the pivot. Pogba was brilliant first 20 minutes. I thought Sancho and Rashford on both wings were excellent, and their game plan was working. They were coming towards the ball as wingers, spinning in behind, and that's where the goal came from. And not only the goal, everyone sees the finishing product from Sancho on the far post, but it's a pattern they've been working on. They've been working on that strategy, coming short. You're playing against a flat back four. The fullbacks will come close to you, spinning behind. You'll do them for pace, and then make sure you're getting at the far post. I thought Sancho did that excellent. It was a great ball in by Rashford. But then something happened during the game. There was an injury to Elanusi about 22, 23 minutes in. And Ralph Hasenhuttl got all his players on the halfway line in a huddle, and he changed the shape. He went to a free. Now, the two wide centre-backs would then start picking up the runs from Rashford and Sancho. They matched them up in the middle of the park, in the middle, with Manchester United's free. And their full-backs squeezed on... their wing-backs squeezed on high against Manchester United's full-backs. And that changed the game. From there on in, Southampton were the better team. Now, maybe you can get to half time and think, right, they've changed it. We need to change it now to get back on track and start, bossing this game again. That didn't happen. And the fact that it didn't happen and it didn't make changes, for me, tells me that Ralph Rangnick might have been out the dugout for too long. He's not got the finger on the pulse. It's all right, going and watching these shows where the pundits have had hours to look at it and analyse and see what's gone on. As a Premier League manager, you need to act immediately, because if you don't, you could be 2 or 3 goals down. And Manchester United were quite fortunate not to concede another goal in that game. You've seen the chances that Southampton created. So for me, I feel a little bit for Ralph Rangnick, because he has been out of the technical area for quite a while. He's been doing sporting director and whatever else he's been doing. And to actually then go straight back into the managerial role in the Premier League, which is a different animal compared to the Bundesliga or wherever he's worked before, I think he's a little bit out of his depth at the moment. He's not quite up and running as a manager again yet.
Trev, do you think that's anything to do with the players as well? Because as you said there, I think when you look at the game, obviously change of shape from Ralph Hasenhuttl. Do you think for Ralph Rangnick, he's probably looked at the players he's got on the pitch and necessarily thought, I haven't got the players there to do it? Or has it come down to the fact that he's probably looking at the likes of, say, the front three and thinking, well, Ronaldo's on there, Sancho, Rashford. So he's almost just hoped that maybe one of them would come out with something special to win the game for them, rather than maybe assessing the situation and making changes?
Well, I think you spot on what you say. I don't think they've got the players to execute a high press, because I look at the side and Cristiano, Rashford, Sancho, Bruno, probably Pogba to a certain extent. That's 5 players out your team that probably are not great out of possession. They're not going to press well. They're not going to stick to task. They're not going to feel comfortable, or it's not going to be second nature to do that kind of work within the team structure. When they get the ball, yeah, great. They come alive. They want to be involved. They look lively. But you can't have that in the Premier League anymore. As you've seen, Salah, Mane, players like that who you might have looked at as luxury forward players that are going to create magical parts in the game and moments in the game, but they have to do it under Klopp.
Yeah.
So I think good players adapt, and they have to adapt, because as you know, Benty, the game evolves, and if you don't evolve with it, you get left behind. And too many of the Manchester United players just look like they're not interested when it's out of possession. They'll get into a space, but they won't press with real commitment to try and win the ball back. And I think it's a massive problem, especially when you've got a manager in whose philosophy is pressing high and dictating play.
On the subject of dressing room leaks, have you ever been involved in that kind of dressing room where things are getting out?
A little bit, yeah, but we've never known who was letting the leaks out. But it's happened from time to time. I had a few suspects who was giving information out. To be fair, because he's not here and he probably won't even hear about it, I think the CANIO used to feed the press a little bit.
Really?
Next time
you see
breaking news stab.
Yeah,
you're going to need protection, Trevor.
The CANIO, rat.
But I mean, it does happen, and it's usually a player that's not having a good time. Either he's not in the team, or he's playing out of position, or he's not enjoying playing under the manager. And they'll have a confidant in the media that they'll leak a few little stories to. But listen, it's poor. Loose lips sink ships, and that phrase is, it's forever stuck with me. And I've always tried to keep close counsel to what was going on in the changing room.
Let's go into that a little bit more, because, like you're saying, if you have your suspicions about other players in the dressing room and you're looking around, surely it just creates like a real a paranoia and a real divide.
I think divide is probably the appropriate word, because it gets tough. I mean, we've been out the game. I've been out the game nearly 15 years, and sometimes you forget you've always got cuts, you've always got bruises, you're always carrying a little injury. It's a tough industry to succeed in, and I think the more and more we're out the game as pundits, as people that analyse football, we mustn't forget that, because it is a tough sport. It really is, mentally, psychologically, physically, time consuming. You don't really have a social life when you're doing it properly and you're really committing yourself. And I think the players are going through a lot, and you don't need that extra burden of feeling like your camp is divided. And at the moment, it seems like, listen, I'm not going to name names, but you could probably, if I was a betting man, I'd put money on certain players in that changing room that are leaking stuff to the media. And it's poisonous in the end, and it ends up going against you on the pitch. And it's difficult to win games in the Premier League anyway, but having a divide in the squad makes it even more difficult.
I was saying there, Trev, earlier as well, that might even be agents. Players are unhappy in that dressing room. They're going back to their agents, feeding them stories. They're putting these stories out there because that's what the common feeling is within the dressing room. That's not helping either, and especially if Manchester United have got aspirations of getting into the top four, because they're in a battle for that with West Ham, Spurs and Arsenal, and you can even throw Wolves into the mix.
Absolutely.
It might even be agents that are putting it out there because they've got unhappy players.
Nothing but trouble, them agents, are there? Nothing but trouble. I mean, it's poor though, isn't it? I think there's an unwritten rule. What goes on in the changing room stays in the changing room. And if you're going to tell your agent, fine, tell your agent, but he must be a confidant as well. He must keep that private. And yeah, this is it's a bad look for Manchester United, but it's a bad look for any team. It doesn't matter what position you are. And you just look at some of the top teams. You look at Liverpool, there's no stories coming out there. You look at Manchester City, there's no stories coming out there. Even Wolves, you mentioned Wolves. I've been so impressed with Bruno Lage and how he's got that group together, and how they're playing. They've got a certain style of play. And really, when you're talking about styles of play, this is going to be Manchester United's 9th year without winning the Premier League. I don't think they've really had a clear identity since Sir Alex Ferguson left the football club. And I think that's a massive problem, because what style of football do they play? What's their game plan all about? What's their main? Obviously, their main objective is to win football matches, but you've got to go into more detail. And when I was looking at the game against Southampton had a clear identity. The passing, the patterns of play they play. They played a 4-4-2. It's very easy for a player to understand that, and they executed it superbly well. They changed it slightly because they had a problem, which I think again is fantastic management from Ralph Hasenhuttl. But in general, I really feel that Manchester United are lacking identity. Hasenhuttl.
I was hoping. He was very close to losing it. You handled it well. Well done. Can you do the Cesar Azpilicueta?
Yeah, Cesar Azpilicueta. Oh, Trev, can you say it? Say it, Trev.
What do you want me to say?
Azpilicueta.
Azpilicueta.
Oh, that's easy for Trev. Easy. Cultured.
Because he's a pundit.
Yeah,
normally
cultured.
pundits know how to say the names, doesn't he? Trevor, earlier on he thought that Cesar Azpilicueta's first name was genuinely Dave.
No.
Yeah, you did.
I thought David was before the Cesar. Is that Cesar? Cesar.
You thought it was David Cesar Azpilicueta. Good old Dave. Okay, those are the voices of former England internationals Darren Bent and Trevor Sinclair.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods. Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.